So over time, when you see continuous success, you start to become a perfectionist. And that's where I am currently in my trading journey, where we are constantly seeing success. And there will be times where you start to rethink things and realize that you need to polish a certain things. The whole point of trading is to continuously get better over time.
At the right
Okay, the
time
market is
by
very
using a
dynamic,
methodology
and in
that's
order for
consistent
you
over time.
to become a successful trader, you have to be ready to adapt and ready to change. Okay, the foundations of the models have always worked, but it's always important to remember, and it's always important to journal what went wrong in certain scenarios. Now, keep in mind, I had a green day today, but I always journal my thoughts and reminisce about the past in order to become better in the future. So, in today's session here, we're primarily going to focus on premiums, future setups, but I want to talk about how we're doing so far in the month of January, and I want to show you a little bit about the success in the channel. Now, we had amazing swings, but our SPX plays were subpar. And this is very uncommon in my room, but for transparency purposes, I also want to highlight this in order to make sure that you guys understand on how this room works and how we communicate effective and bad trades with the room. So let's get into it. So today what we have seen is the S&P 500 basically had a very strong open. Now in my Twitter feed here, there was a little bit of whiplash between what I was believing and what actually happened. Now, at the start of the week, I did give some levels, some charts, and all that information. We shared our NVDA chart analysis and our MSTR, IWM, and so forth. Okay, so far, as we go through all of this information here, what you will notice is that I've been pretty much bullish on MSTR, NVIDIA, while being somewhat bearish on Tesla. Okay, now Tesla here, I said that it's going to be a blood-sucking trade, and it was pretty much going to attack the bulls here. So we didn't touch Tesla at all, but as you guys can see here, it pretty much was trading my neutral chop range, had a strong open. So if you did swing Tesla, you would have definitely been green depending on how far you paid and how the strike was, but eventually you can see it gave it up. I'm not so bullish on Tesla this week here. I'm actually kind of bearish because it doesn't really have positive new sentiment. The premiums are overpriced, so your chances of success on these future plays not going to be so good. We also talked about MSTR, the Micron strategy, that Bitcoin is likely to rip to 100,000, which did happen. Okay, so I also mentioned here, futures are strong. Do not be deceived. There's a potential fake out. Okay, so this was on the Sunday, but I also added more information saying that we're going to see a strong green open. So I expected a strong green open, and I had calls, and they were definitely all strong here. Okay, I wanted to see if SPX was actually gonna fail my level 1 bullish here. Okay, so in terms of my overall trades here for the month of January, so keep in mind we've been on a hot streak, for a very long time, couple of months. So you can see all these green plays that we have over here. I'm currently in Carvana puts, which is an open trade. I declare every open trade a loss until it is sold. Okay, and so far these SPX plays, we sold that at a loss, and this is also expired as well. So these two trades was not a good play that we got overall. Okay, this one over here, we decided to play the rejection. I kind of chased this, anticipating that there would be a drop. I was actually, in fact, seeing I timed it wrong. These puts would have actually somewhat have come back later on during the day as we've seen the drop, but when the S&P 500 really started to move with strength, that's when I started to feel less confident and I got out. Okay, this trade over here, pretty much the call that we took, it was moving well until S&P 500 hit 60-20 and didn't come back at all. So with this one was definitely a not so good play. NVDA 150 calls was pretty. This was green at first. We were swinging this into the Jensen event, and we got these SPX call swings because we believe that the market's going to be a green open. So a lot of green plays, as you guys can see over here, a lot of winners thus far. So we want to see how that transitions. Now, besides all of that here, and besides having a good January here, we've been pretty spot on about a lot of things here, okay? One thing about my model that I pretty much got wrong, usually when I see level 2 bullish here, for example, where the S&P 500 hit 1616, in this normal circumstances, the market trend should have been confirmed and every dip should have been bought. But we did not see that, as a matter of fact. We actually saw the S&P 500 dip towards our level 1 bearish support. It had a temporary bounce and then it closed somewhat in the red, okay? So that is after having a strong open. The market went below its opening price. But I looked into my analysis in greater detail, say, hey, this is very rare where the market, when it hits that trend level, why has it not trended? Because if you guys been following my content for a long time, usually when you hit the level 2, it's been really, really spot on. So I looked into it and, on the numbers carefully, and I realized that QQQ hit my estimated weekly high, and that just caused techs to see a major pullback, and that could possibly be the reason why SPX was not sustainable. Okay, so these are the analysis that we do beforehand. QQQ has a chance to move higher, but it did hit my 528, which was an estimate, and that could possibly be the reason the pullback on the techs at that particular moment was the reason why you could see that drop. Because right at this 11 a.m. here, right? So if you go over here around 11 a.m., right? This is where the QQQs pretty much hit their peak level, and ever since then, major pullback happened, and that's when you start to see weakness throughout the entire day. So I did not actually look into this chart here, but I later realized that, okay, going forward, it's important to consider QQQ analysis and the numbers that we have, because as you guys may know, I have called the top, the bottom, and on many different stocks, and these levels are always given before the start of the week here. So if you guys go back into my analysis here, you can see that as well, that the information is always time-stamped. I put a lot of time and effort into doing this every week, so that way my members can see the success that beholds them, right? So interesting to see here, okay? So during the start of the week, you can see right here, estimated weekly app. During the start of the week, we did have the NVIDIA 150 calls at around 1. They went to $4 to $5. We sold them for around 80%. And we also had the MSTR calls as well. The second mistakes I did is I took, around 50-60% profits on them. If I had held them, they would have gone a lot higher, but I sensed a little bit of market weakness here, okay? So these were my tops. So going forward, it's important to kind of stick with the plan, and that's what I'm going to be doing going forward. So we hit our estimated weekly high on MSTR. That's where pretty much it closed there. So we want to see if it can continue to push on beyond this number here. NVIDIA also pretty much hit around our level 2. So in this case, NVIDIA has confirmed the trend to the upside, and it's likely that going forward that it's going to retest this 154 and potentially 156. You can see that the 148 has become the demand, and this is where pretty much you see trades going here further. Okay, so this is what we're looking at this time. Further trades that we're looking into. As well is, of course, ARM. So ARM, we had a successful trade here as well that pretty much managed to give our members around 60 to 70%, and we're going to be watching this to see if it can go beyond 149 moving forward. Okay, so we're going to be watching that carefully. Meta, So I had anticipated to purchase Meta. Unfortunately, I did not get the fill. I was telling my team here that Meta looks like it has a surprise move. So Meta actually had news that they added Dana White, the UFC CEO, on the board of directors. Now this here is actually very positive news, because now it gives pretty much the Meta access to the Trump administration, puts them in good terms. And also you can argue that Dana White is somewhat an advocate of free speech, and that is definitely likely to attract more users to the base here. So that's why the stock definitely broke through our estimated weekly high and start to really run through a bullish breakout. So now what we're looking to see here is if Meta can really run towards that 140 moving forward. So that's what we're looking at. We did have an order to buy the 640 calls, and unfortunately it didn't really fill, and that was one of the problems that we're looking at. Well, we sold our Meta and our ARM calls at that particular time. We had NVDA calls, which were doing well, and pretty much the weakness for today had to do with our SPX plays, which going forward we're going to definitely stick to the game plan, and that was one thing that we want to go into as well. Now, in terms of the overall premiums that we want to discuss here, so far trades that you really want to consider. So we mentioned that Tesla has weakness, okay, and this is going to be kind of important moving forward as well. Take a look at the 390s, okay? The 390 put premiums, you want to see if it ever hits around 1.5, 1.6 is a strong support. That's where it previously bottomed here. That would be a very interesting play as well, because I think Tesla may see some weakness. One risk of Tesla is that if it gets secondary news, so indirect news with the CES conference, where let's just say they talk about that, NVIDIA says that they have a massive order of the chips with Tesla robots or their FSD, that could be possibly the risk. But if there's no mention of Tesla whatsoever, then you probably see puts do a lot better than calls there. But you got to make sure that if Tesla's in the neutral chop range, you don't overpay for that. Now, if you guys are looking at NVIDIA 160 calls, that's pretty far out, okay? I would not want to overpay for this, but if these calls, you can see that this is a strong support at around 30 cents. I would only wait for 30 cents for small accounts to get this NVIDIA 160 call, because if you do get it at 30 cents, you have an opportunity to sell it at around 1. That's where the significant resistance here as well. So keep an eye on that. And for SPX in tomorrow's play, a trade idea here, what we're looking to see is looking at the 620 calls and getting an idea about the 620. Okay, 620 was today's high. So in order for SPX to really recover, you want to see these premiums start to move. It seems like the 620 calls pretty much bottomed right at this point here. So if the 620 calls does manage to get through around $8, $8 to $10, then you can really see these premiums move here. So I hope you guys got a informative detail about these option premiums, where we see the market going. If I was to share my prediction with you guys right now, based on my analysis of the weekly premiums that I constantly speak with my members, I mentioned on Twitter at the end of the day that we see S&P 500 opening higher between the 5990 and 6,000 mark. There's a possibility that the S&P 500 could also open at today's high at around 60.20. So keep an eye on this. The CES event is going to be the biggest catalyst for now into tomorrow's event, because if there's a guidance on the Blackwell chips, you can certainly see stocks like NVIDIA soar, and that will pretty much cause the market to really rip. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one, and like always, let's get that money.